What's up, it's Phil from Fit Will Exposed. In today's episode, we got the 7K Christmas special. So, a couple episodes ago, I got 25 questions received that I was willing to answer in the comment section below. And now I finally have the answers. I have all the questions in front of me. I'm just gonna bang them out one by one, raw, no takebacks, and you guys are just gonna love it. So, Merry Christmas to all you guys and your family, and enjoy. Okay, so the first question on the list is, can you reach and get all your goals at the same time? Let's say you grind for the 225 OHP, 365 bench, 550 deadlift, etc. Once you stop focusing on the OHP and you go to the bench, then the deadlift, will you maintain your strength, or can you train and perform best for one specific lift? So what he's basically asking is, could you maintain your strength when you reach your certain goal on a certain lift when you go to the next lift? So, you reach the 225 OHP, could you maintain that strength when you go trying to get the 365 bench, and then the 550 deadlift, etc. And my answer to that is that it's great that you worked up to that 225 OHP, but if you want to maintain the strength, you still have to have some overhead pressing into your program. So you can most likely maintain it if you're still incorporating some overhead pressing, but it's going to be very hard to bring it up when you're trying to specialize on your bench press at the same time. So you could for sure maintain if you have some OHP work in your programming, but the bench, you're gonna have to pick one or the other. And then when it comes to deadlift, you could pretty much maintain and even strengthen your bench or your OHP at the same time as you're doing your deadlift, because different muscles are being utilized. So hope that answers your question. Favorite post-workout foods. Okay, when it comes to pre-workouts, I'm a very simple guy. I don't like to complicate it. I'll probably have a few bananas. If I'm really hungry, I'll probably have a lot of pasta, but not too much because I don't want to be too bloated for the workout. But something that has a lot of carbs in it. I really like pasta especially. Then when it comes to pre-workout, if I'm really in a rush, I can maybe have like a little shake of some sort. But if I'm not really in a rush and I'm more at home, I can make some chicken, or just a great protein source overall. Opinions on getting wide while having previously suffered a back injury. Currently doing chest supported rows. Okay, you can still get extremely wide even if you've had a lower back injury, and you could do a lot of weighted pull-ups. You could do different forms of unilateral rows. I personally like landmine unilateral rows, like Meadows rows, one-arm landmine rows, Dante rows. You could search all them up. You could do heavy pullovers. You could do lat pull downs, because when it comes to width, it's really the lats that are going to give you that effect. So a lot of lat exercises coincidentally don't require you to have the strongest lower back, at least in most cases. Like, you could get, a lot of people have herniated disc, but they're still doing pull-ups for over 3 plates for reps. You can still max out the stack on the lat pull down. You can still get your dumbbell pull over to 150 pounds for reps. You can still do heavy unilateral rows. So even if your lower back isn't the strongest, or if it's injured, you can still make do with what you have. So just set some good goals for yourself. Try to get like a body weight pull-up. If you weigh 185, try to get to that for 1 rep. Try to get it to like maybe 100 pounds for reps, and see what it does to your lats. Then as far as your delts are concerned, you can still do some vertical presses. If it really aggravates your back, you could do it on a very high incline. So some high incline presses, it's still pressing overhead. It's still gonna hit your delts hard with a bit more upper chest. You could do some rear delt swings, you're gonna be covered. Would also love to see some personal development stuff, book suggestions, talk, or whatever else. Well, I used to make a lot of videos on that before when I first started the channel, and I think the playlist was called Mental Toughness. I pretty much took it down, but I still have some videos lying around here and there that don't really have much to do about the gym. Like the one where I talked about stand up for your beliefs, even if it means you have to stand up alone. But I'm planning on doing a lot more videos like that in the future, because I don't want to limit this channel to just fitness. I want at least 95% of it to be fitness, but some topics that I really want to get off my chest may not have to do with fitness, but I'll definitely deliver it to you guys. So if you guys have any suggestions below of stuff non-related to fitness that I can maybe address in future videos, let me know and I'll deliver. Differences in your light and volume days, like percentage and exercise differences from each other. Okay, someone basically heard about my Silverback program and how I'm doing a heavy, light, medium setup in a full body concurrent fashion. So I'm rotating lifts and all that kind of good stuff. But a lot of people want to know, what's the difference between the light day and the volume day? Because they know it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday type of setup, with 1 day apart. They know the intensity day is to really get weights from point A to point B. stimulate the nervous system and just start lifting heavier weights, you know. But people want to know the difference between the light day and the volume day. It's very simple. The light day, it's in the middle of the week. It's somewhat like a deload / bodybuilding day, so you're really hitting high reps, usually around 12 to 33 reps. You know, 33, you'll probably do 3 sets of 33 for that 100 rep total. But the light day, it's really just a lot of exercise like bodyweight lifts, like pull-ups, dips, chest supported stuff, single leg stuff, dumbbell work, landmine lifts, and just a lot of lifts in general that aren't going to tax you too much in the middle of the week. So you can still get some high reps in, still get a lot of volume in without really compromising much, your recovery. In the volume day, it's more moderate reps, you know, something like 7 to 11 reps. So a lot of 8s, and you're just doing more taxing lifts, you know, front squats, rack pulls below the knee, and a lot of stuff of that nature. Top 3 exercises for looking wide as hell. Okay, well, I thought about this a couple times, and hands down, first one would have to be the snatch grip rack pull below the kneecap, because you could lift more in your deadlift, you could overload the upper back, lats, rear delts with more weight than your deadlift. It's a pretty low back friendly lift for the most part. It's not an ego lift. The loading potential is heavy. It's great for enhancing the posture, and it just pretty much hits every muscle group in the back, hits the rear delts hard. And the second lift would be the military press seated on a very high incline, because this allows you to lift heavier than the standing version. It hits the upper chest a little bit harder, but it overloads the delts harder in my opinion, and it contributed a lot to my delt development. And as far as the third lift is concerned, I like some form of T-bar rows, like a close grip or a wide grip T-bar row, because you get a better contraction at the top, the weighted stretch is better, you could lift heavier than a regular barbell row for most cases, and you could just stay very, very upright. So it's very easy on the low back, and the benefits are just endless. It's a bit easier to cheat, and a lot of people have built great backs off T-bar rows. When is metal music playlist coming out? Okay, because a couple months ago I made my top 20 or top 25 favorite rap songs for lifting, and I promised I was going to make a metal version. So I should have a metal version coming out maybe within the next 2 months. If you have any metal tracks that you really want me to listen to, let me know in the comment section below. But so far I'm pretty much halfway down the list, or 75% done, so it should come out very soon. How can you increase mental strength? Okay, well, mental strength is a very complex topic, but just for the sake of this video and for training related purposes, I would say mental strength all has to do with the mind. It's all about the thoughts you tell yourself on a regular basis, the stories you tell yourself, and it has a lot to do with confidence, believe it or not, because some people have the physical strength, they can lift heavy weights, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have mental strength. Mental strength is all about being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. It's all about when you're very tempted to do something, the mental strength kicks in and it pretty much just pushes it out the way, you know. You're really tired, you don't feel like getting up to go to the gym, but mentally you're so strong that you just end up doing it. Or when you're actually in the gym, you know, you're doing something like 20 rep squats, your body doesn't want to do anymore, it can't really do anymore, but your mind is stronger than your body. You have that mental strength, and your mind forces your body to do more. It demands more from your body, and it's not the other way around. So you kind of think of it like that. When you're physically strong, your body is just as strong as your mind. But when you're mentally strong, it's your mind that's just as strong as your body. And usually when your mind is just as strong as your body, you're gonna have a pretty strong body too for the most part. So ideally you wanna have both, but the mental strength is something that's very important. It's something that's gonna develop over time with the right methods. Phil, how can you get a wider, larger neck, especially when looking from the front? And must I work the sides? Okay, it's a very simple answer. When it comes to the front of the neck, you want to do what's called flexion work, which means a lot of neck curls. And if you watch my 19-inch neck workout, you can see that I'm doing a lift where I have a neck harness, I'm seated on a bench, and I attach the neck harness to a loading pin. And I'm just doing this motion right here. And as you can see, my torso is in a vertical position. So when I lean my chin back, I'm really getting a nice stretch in the front of my neck. And it's the weighted stretch with heavy weights that's gonna make the neck grow. So I also like the lying neck curl with plates on your face, but the problem with that is that a lot of people, once they get past the 90 pounds, it gets really hard to hold and it becomes more of a grip exercise than anything else. But if you watch my 19-inch neck workout, you're gonna see that my go-to lift is the seated neck curl. You can go pretty heavy on it with the loading pin. You know, you could easily rack up over like 4 plates on it with no problem. So if you get that to a strong number, you're gonna have a big neck from the front view. Then when it comes to the sides, you can work them if you want, but in my opinion, they're not really gonna make your neck look that much bigger. Although you could if you really want to. And if you were to really ask me, look, what do I have to do to reach my neck genetic potential, you should throw some side work in there, but for the most part, I would say you get at least 90% of your gains from training the front and training the back of your neck. What do you think about progressive range of motion for presses and rows? I asked this on Alex's channel, but no luck. This is something I've done with rack pulls. Okay, the progressive range of motion is really popularized by Paul Anderson, and it really is a great method. It's a time-tested method that really does help you break through plateaus because you're strengthening all the joint angles, and it's just been proven to work. You know, a lot of people, I think George Lehman even uses it, but overall it's a great method, and I haven't used it for any rows or presses for that matter, but I know people who got great results. Just know it's not the only way, you know. There's tons of ways to get a stronger lift, and that's just one way to do it, you know. It's kind of like you have a destination and there's a million routes that you could use to get there, and progressive range of motion is definitely one of them. Although another great way would just be focus on your weaknesses, you know. So let's say if you're really weak at the bottom of your deadlift, and then you do a progressive range of motion cycle where you start rack pull above the knee, at the knee, below the knee, mid shin, all that stuff. Instead, you could also just try doing a lot of deficit work, and in some cases that might even just fix it all together. But play around with different things and just see what works for you. But generally speaking, the progressive range of motion method should work. What's your max bench? I know you OHP a lot, but how much do you bench horizontally? Okay, the bench press, I did 325 for a real grinder at the beginning of December. I didn't post that video because it was too much of a grinder, but I got the weight from point A to point B. But if you recall my grinding video, I talked about how I don't want to promote grinders on my channel, and I don't want to see a lot of my subscribers doing these ugly grinders all the time. But 325, that's what I did up to date. And you saw on video I did 4 singles with 315 and went up pretty fast, you know. But I'm pretty confident I can reach a 365. By the way, the 315, I barely even tried to get there. I just did a lot of singles every now and then, and I just tweaked up my technique and I got it. But I'm pretty sure I can get 365, and I'll keep you guys posted on the progress. Is there any exercise that has carryover to the weighted pull-ups? Of course, there's exercises that carry over to the weighted pull-up. You just have to find out which ones are really harder variations of the one that you're already doing. So if you're doing, you know, a close grip neutral pull-up, which tends to be very easy for the majority of people that I've coached or that I've just seen on YouTube in general, then you could try doing a harder variation. You know, you could try doing a pronated grip pull-up with a wide grip, or you could try doing pronated with fat grips, or you could try pronated with a weight vest with bands attached to a heavy dumbbell at the bottom. So there's tons of ways to manipulate the variables to make the pull-up a lot of a harder lift. You know, you could add isometric holds, you could do heavy negatives. There's tons, but if you really want to know my top 3, I would say you could do some pull-ups with fat grips, you could do some pull-ups with maybe a weighted vest with the band attached at the bottom. You could even try doing isometric holds where you're really weak at the lift. Those are just some great options, but it's not set in stone. There's tons of great ways to get a good pull-up. You just have to find what works for you. Just play around with different lifts. If it doesn't carry over after a few weeks, ditch it and try something else. Will Silverback be a program to primarily develop the upper back, lats, tricep long head, neck, delts, traps? What will be included? Give us some info. Okay, the Silverback program, although the book is nowhere close to being done yet, it's gonna prioritize a lot of back training. Just like the title says, it has the word back in it, but it's more of a full system, you know. It's really a system that's really gonna target tons of muscles at once, but if I were to say the main focus, I would say it's the back. But with that being said, you're still gonna get jacked arms from it, tricep long head, brachialis for arms, you're gonna get some delts, you're gonna have the whole back, so lats, upper back, huge traps. I threw in some neck work in there, you know, posterior chain. But so you are focusing on a lot of muscles at once, but really you're gonna get a huge back from it. And you're just gonna get some huge arms, you're just gonna be huge all over. So it's not necessarily a specialization program for one muscle group, but rather it's going to make the whole body grow at once in an optimal fashion, because I have a very strategic setup in an upper, lower, or a full body fashion. So you have a lot of options. It's going to vary from novice lifters to intermediate to advanced. I'm still deciding on that, but I know I already have an intermediate program in there and an advanced system, but I'm not sure if I'm going to put a novice system in there. I'll keep you guys posted. But so far, the Silverback program is bananas. You guys are just going to love it. Congrats on the continuous growth of the channel. Quick question. What do you think of the benefits of pause bench over the touch and go? Very simple. The pause bench is going to help you with very specific parts of the range of motion. So, you know, you could pause different parts that are weak in a certain lift. So most people when they bench, they're very weak at the bottom, so they're going to gravitate more towards pausing at around the lower chest level. So if you're really weak and if it's really a weakness, you should be doing some pause work. But with that being said, you should also be doing some touch and go work, at least in my opinion. In my opinion, and from the opinions of a lot of other powerlifters, it's good to implement both of these into your program. You don't want to just marry yourself to one. You don't want to just do touch and go all the time, because in the competition you have to be able to pause. Whereas if you just do pause work all the time, it could work for some powerlifters, but or just lifters in general, but you do get some great overloading benefits when you do incorporate the touch and go. So for the best possible results, at least in my opinion, implement both methods, but incorporate some pause work. And if you want to know my opinion, I would make touch and go a main lift, and I would make the pause an assistance lift. That's just my opinion though. Would you ever release specialty novice programs that utilize the tips in your injury books? Single leg work, pause reps, split stance, etc. So he's basically referring to my pain books, where I have 101 tips in every book for elbow, wrist, shoulders, knees, and low back. So those are 4 books in total that I wrote maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and I was getting a lot of good feedback on them. But he wants to know if I'm ever going to make specialty programs to complement these books, and the answer is it depends. If it's really high in demand, I'll definitely do it. So let me know in the comment section below if you want to see some books where I give you guys tips on more user-friendly exercises for the general population, how to get more out of less weight, all the factors of that nature. As a late novice who's starting to incorporate snatch grip deadlifts, should I do relatively slow eccentrics to stress the upper back more, or focus simply on the concentric part like you would with a regular deadlift? Okay, this isn't the most exciting answer, but just to keep things simple, if you're a late novice who's starting to incorporate snatch grip deadlifts into your routine, treat it like a regular deadlift. You know, just focus on getting a lot of reps in, drilling that technique, not focusing too much on grinders, you know, just improving your technique more and more over time. Try to get it flawless, you know, keep that flat back, just stay tight the whole time, and over time your snatch grip lifts are just going to improve, especially your deadlift. And it's also going to have a lot of carryover to your regular deadlift too, but you don't need those slow eccentrics, at least in my opinion. You could do that on something like a snatch grip RDL if you want, but for the snatch grip deadlift, treat it like a regular deadlift. You wouldn't do a very slow eccentric on a regular deadlift, so the same thing applies to the snatch grip variation. Just go as fast as you can on the concentric, and for the eccentric, just do a controlled eccentric. It doesn't have to be super slow. How is Nether doing? Is he coming back? Thanks for the amazing channel. Okay, Nether, I haven't spoken to him too much after I did the Q&As with him a couple months back, but from what subscribers are telling me and from what I'm hearing from just, you know, little birdies in the trees, I think he should be coming back in 2018, but I'm not officially sure. So I'll keep you guys posted when I find out more information, but all I'm hearing is just rumors and just myths everywhere. You know, I don't really know the facts. I don't even live in the same country as the guy, but hopefully he should be back at an awesome channel, and I hope to see Nether again. Congrats on the subs. Your thoughts on mouth guards and weightlifting. Okay, well, I'm not an Olympic weightlifter, so I don't do snatches and all that good stuff. I do a lot of high pulls, but as far as mouth guards in general, I do think that they could be a great tool to some people. I know that for myself. I used to use a mouth guard when I used to play a lot of basketball, and I had the mouth guard laying around, and I actually tried using it during a benching session, and it actually helped me a lot. It helped me grind to the rep a lot faster, so what would have been a grinder before actually went a lot smoother. And it's because when you bite into the mouth guard, it just teaches you how to be a bit more aggressive. But it depends on the person, and it depends on the lift too, because some people, they really need that air. They need to breathe in really deeply, and when you have a mouth guard, it may be a bit harder to pursue that. So it depends on the lift, but I'd say for presses, I see a lot of powerlifters using them. I think even Scott Mendelson used to have it, or someone else, but it could work. You just have to try it out, and if it doesn't work, ditch it. What keeps you away from steroids? Okay, I'm happy somebody asked this question because a lot of my subs ask me this, and more importantly, I ask myself this question a lot too. What keeps me away from it? And the simple answer is my legacy. That's pretty much the legacy I want to leave behind, and also the legacy I already have, currently speaking. You know, I'm known as Phil Will Exposed, who's motivating naturals worldwide, and if I were to get on some stuff, it would pretty much defeat the whole purpose, because what would really separate me from the other YouTubers, you know? I think that my channel is very unique, and that's because I have a very unique message. I'm telling people that, like, look, you can get big and strong, drug-free, and if I were to hop on, you know, some low tests, some tests, or just anything else in general, it would pretty much make me like 80% of the other YouTubers out there, you know? I think it's very cool that I'm trying to push the natural limit for what I could achieve. I know there's guys who are natural who are a lot bigger and a lot stronger than me, but I'm just trying to be the best that I could be and, you know, motivate you guys. And hopefully you guys will repeat the same steps as me, you know, stay natural and motivate other people. Because I only think that a select few should go that route of taking drugs. And I don't think a recreational guy or female should be getting on drugs just to get on drugs. And if I were to be completely honest, I would say that I wish they didn't even exist in general. You know, I wish that everybody had to get to where they had to be off of purely hard work, and there were no shortcuts, but that's just the life we live in. There's always going to be shortcuts, and people are always going to find ways to get them, you know. So generally speaking, that's pretty much why I want to stay natural. It's because of my legacy. It's because I don't want to be like a lot of these other YouTubers, and I want to stand out. And not only do I want to be different, but I just want to stay true to myself, and I think that the body is capable of great things. You know, so I have a lot of great goals. Some of these goals are going to take me like another 10 years, some are going to take me 5. So I have short and long-term goals, but generally speaking, I'm very confident with what I could achieve naturally. I know I could reach maybe like, you know, the body fat I'm at now, let's say I'm at 20%, but go to 250, you know, maybe 260 at 20%, you know, get super strong and just preach the whole silverback mentality. It's possible to run concurrent calisthenics setup with an intensity and volume day while having variations with hand placements. Are there any limitations to this? I don't think there's any limitations to it. I think it'll work. But as far as the lower body, I think it's very hard, but for the upper body, it can definitely be done, you know. For specific muscle groups, you know, if we're talking about calisthenics for traps, I doubt it. For neck, yeah. But for muscles like the lats, you know, for the pecs, for the triceps, even the biceps, even the forearms, it could definitely work, you know. The upper back could be a bit tricky, but those are completely different topics overall for a completely different video. But for a lot of the muscle groups in the upper body, I'd say that you could do concurrent calisthenics with intensity and volume days. You know, you just take very time-tested staple lifts, you know, pull-up variations, dip variations. I could give an example right now. If we're talking about getting wide lats with the pull-up, you could try doing some pull-ups with neutral grip. Then next program, you could try pull-ups, neutral grip with a wide grip fashion. You could even try pronated pull-ups, supinated, just archer pull-ups. There's tons of variations to choose from. Then if we're talking about something like the shoulders, you know, you could try close grip handstand push-ups, regular handstand push-ups with an extended range of motion. You know, there's tons of variations to choose from. You just have to get creative, and you have to use variations that are actually going to help you progress in an injury-free fashion. Happy for you, Phil. It's just the beginning. What should the upper arm size be before starting to take forearm training seriously and grow them big? Okay, there's no set in stone number of what your upper arm measurement should be to start training your forearm seriously, but as a general rule of thumb, if you're a novice lifter and you haven't really built your base of strength, I would say that your forearm is going to grow just fine off doing, you know, some hammer curls, reverse curls, and also a lot of strapless work. So deadlifts, rows, shrugs, pull-up variations with no straps are going to grow your forearms just fine. But then when you reach the intermediate stage, that's when you could benefit from more direct forearm work. So that's when you can start throwing in, you know, some wrist curls, behind the back wrist curls, one arm dumbbell wrist curls. You can start incorporating some fat grip work, so different forms of fat grips. But that's just a rule of thumb, you know. So if you're a novice lifter, build that base. If you're an intermediate, you could start specializing a little bit more. What's your perspective on body weight training for muscle growth? Okay, you're talking about calisthenics. I think it could be great, but it's going to really depend on what kind of calisthenics. If we're talking about weighted calisthenics, I think it's great. But if we're talking about just pure calisthenics in general, you're going to have to be very creative, and in my opinion, you're going to have to be really heavy. You know, if you weigh like 250 pounds, then it could be a great approach. But if you're trying to build as much muscle as possible, weighing 150 pounds, it's going to be very hard in my opinion. You know, there's going to be a lot of muscle going to be lagging behind your legs, your traps, maybe even your neck. Your upper back's not going to be maximized. But that's a whole nother video altogether. But generally speaking, if you're at a heavier weight, the calisthenics, pure calisthenics, could be a lot more beneficial. But it could still be done if you're at a really light weight, but you have to be very creative and you have to really be pushing your body to the limit with different variations, different progressions. For form hypertrophy, which is better, wrist curls and extensions or arm wrestling style training? Well, if you look at a lot of arm wrestle style training, they actually do a lot of wrist curls and extensions. So I don't really know what you're talking about there, but generally speaking, if you want to get big forms, you need some wrist curling variations, that's for sure. That's really going to thicken up the flexures of the form, and you need some forms of curls. You know, you need some reverse curls, you need some hammer curls, you need a lot of fat handle work. I'm going to talk about this in my ferocious forearm series, but so just stay tuned for that. Ferocious forearms, I'm going to talk about every single tip you really need to know on how to really build them up, so just be on the lookout for that. Most effective way to grow gigantic gorilla glutes. Okay, it's a very simple question, and the answer is even just as simple. So I'm going to give you guys two solutions. The first one is that you have to squat, and you have to squat deep, and you have to squat heavy. So a lot of people are doing their quarters rep squats, half squats. If you really want to take your glutes to the next level, you have to squat deep with heavy weights. And if you want a good testimonial, you can look at a lot of powerlifters. You know, they squat deep, they squat heavy, and whether they're men or women, drug-free or not, most of these people have very big glutes, and it's because of the squat. You know, like I preach a lot of unconventional lifts, but when it comes to the glutes, I keep it very simple, and I really think that the squat is hands down one of the best lifts if you're squatting deep. The second tip is incorporate a lot of unilateral work, and more particularly the Bulgarian split squat. That really stretches the hell out of the glutes, especially if you make the knee touch the floor at the bottom of the rep. So if you combine these two ideas, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting some bilateral glute stretches at the bottom and some unilateral stretches at the bottom. So it's really a good method. And if I could even throw in a third tip, you could add in some sumo lifts into your program. So you could do some sumo RDLs, some sumo good mornings, some sumo deadlifts. The sumo lifts tend to hit the glutes in a very unique fashion that a lot of squats can't normally do. So if you combine all these things together, you're gonna have massive glutes, and if you're getting stronger and if you're gaining weight, you're for sure gonna have a huge ass. What's your take on cheat rows? Are they effective? Okay, I think the cheat row is a great tool to have in your program, but the problem with them is that a lot of people do them way too early. So it's not necessarily the cheat row that's bad, it's just people are using them way too early in their training careers and not really reaping all the benefits because they're just doing it way too soon. So I say get your row with the barbell to 275, 315-ish with somewhat strict form, and then from that point on you could start doing a bit more body English on your heavy sets. And I personally found for myself that if I just do strict rows, my back doesn't grow optimally. I have to do those sets where I'm really getting that crazy stretch and overloading it and getting it stronger. And a lot of people don't notice, but getting stronger on your cheat rows will make your strict stronger. If you could do 365 or let's say 405 with like a bit of body English, you could probably do 365 with more of a strict fashion. So I think if you really want to reach your back potential, and in my opinion personally, you need some cheat rows in the mix. And the same thing can go with biceps too. A lot of people think that you could just do strict curls all the way, but all the people who had the biggest biceps, they all did cheat curls. The guys like Arnold and just people in the old school era. Cheat curls are very similar to rows. You need them to really reach that potential, but they have to be used intelligently. You'll do some tutorials in the future on cheat rows and cheat curls in case you're curious. Yo Phil, do you primarily focus more on snatch grip rack pulls below the kneecap or snatch grip deadlifts off the floor for upper back size? Okay, I like to focus on both these lifts, and over time I want to bring both of them up to good numbers. So over time I like to bring my snatch grip pull off the floor to 585 along with my snatch grip rack pull below the kneecap to 700 or a bit more for reps. So if I can get those numbers, I'm going to get a huge back, and I think that both of them are important. The snatch grip deadlift is going to provide a really good range of motion with the snatch grip, and it's going to have a lot of carryover to your regular deadlift. So if ever you want to convert into powerlifting, you're gonna have that base. You're gonna have a very respectable deadlift. And the snatch grip rack pull below the kneecap allows you to overload the back even more. So you're really getting the best of both worlds, getting a full range of motion lift, and you're getting a partial lift, and it's just happiness all around. So I think if you're really serious about backside, you should be doing both lifts, and even the snatch grip deadlift from a deficit to solid lift too. Best way to build a thick and strong midsection. Okay, so it's very simple. You want to do a bit more beltless work, and you want to use very specific exercises that are really going to overload the core with heavy compound lifts. So good examples of this would be if you're squatting 315, you could try to get your beltless squat to higher numbers. So if you're squatting 315 for 5 with the belt, you could try to do 275 for 5 without the belt. Then eventually when you're squatting 405 for 5 with the belt, try to get your beltless to 365 times 5 without the belt. So eventually you want your beltless lifts just be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And you could also try to complement it with stuff like front squats and Zercher squats, because your core has to work extra hard in order to keep the bar closer to your center of gravity. So when you're doing something like a back squat, you could do more of a good morning on the lift and still get the weight up. But when you're doing something like a front squat, you can't lean forward too much because you're gonna dump the bar. So your core has to work overtime, and you may not be able to lift as heavy, but it places more emphasis on the core. So Zercher squats and front squats are really going to build that midsection up. So those are some go-to lifts I'd really incorporate in the program if you really want to improve your core strength. Okay, so there you guys have it. Q&A, Christmas special, 20 plus questions answered. Let me know in the comment section below if you learned anything. Add me up on Instagram, PG.Coaching, if you want to see some of my new posts, if you want to ask me some stuff. And I just hope you guys enjoyed overall. So Merry Christmas to you and your family, and I'll see you guys in the next video.